So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, public safety community. Welcome to PSN at Home. I am your host, Jason Karp, Esquire of the Public Safety Network, and I'm here with a very esteemed guest, Commissioner Adam Teal of the Philadelphia Fire Department, and also Director of Office of Emergency Management. And the Commissioner, for those who don't know, and I assume most folks who are going to be watching this know something about you, but you have an extremely impressive and varied background from wildland fires, paramedic, city, urban, fire service. You've kind of, hit a lot of different elements of the fire service and emergency medical services. And I think you were here, when you were running department here in Virginia. You were, I think, in my neck of the woods. Were you down in Richmond when you were doing that, or?
I was actually I was the fire chief in Alexandria for about 7 years, and I was also the state fire director for Virginia, and then deputy secretary of public safety and homeland security.
Yeah, outstanding. And so I'm up in Loudoun County, but
beautiful place.
It's lovely. The humidity I could deal without, but other than that, it's been beautiful out here. But so absolutely thankful to have you on the show, and appreciate you making a couple minutes to talk to us and our viewers. I want to just dive right into things. I mean, you are running a major urban department. We're facing a huge crisis here with the pandemic. Just generally, I mean, what are the challenges? How are things going in managing the pandemic in the fifth largest city in the country?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and honestly, all the credit goes to the almost 3,000 women and men of the Philadelphia Fire Department and Office of Emergency Management. I mean, they really haven't missed a beat in this entire event. I guess now we're going on 4 or 5 months, and the time kind of it all runs together. And as if COVID wasn't enough, then we had peaceful protest activity, which of course we welcome here in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, as well as the city, of course, where independence was originally declared. The challenge there was, of course, some of the righteous, peaceful protest became something different. So a very difficult time there. A week or so, and then we also had a couple of severe weather events. We had a derecho, which you'll recall from Northern Virginia, sort of a tornado without the twist, as I describe it. So
yeah, exactly.
Throughout all of that, I mean, we had a day where we had more than 500 fire incidents. Our average is 150 to 200 fire and fire-related incidents. We had a couple-day period there where we were doing a working fire every hour for about 60 hours.
Wow.
And on and on and on. And again, our medics and EMTs, busiest ambulance in the nation is actually right here in Philadelphia, more than 10,000 runs every year. And honestly, our providers haven't missed a beat.
That's phenomenal. I mean, you definitely have your hands full, and you hit it on the head. I mean, how in particular with the protests, and I know, of course, there was a lot of events throughout the country where, peaceful turned to more violent. And I heard stories across the nation about firefighters and EMTs kind of getting caught up in the middle of that, and in some cases being attacked or not being able to get to folks who had issues. Did you experience any of that? Has there been any challenges there, and how have you overcome that?
We actually didn't. While we were very busy during that period of time, we did not have any documented instances where firefighters or medics were attacked or anything like that. For the most part, people let us go in and do what we needed to do. We made it to all of those fires. Again, we've been fortunate over the past 4 years. We've done a lot of reinvestment in the fire department. We've added 10 medic units. We've added almost 1,000 positions, and 600 to 700 actual firefighters and medics on the street. Rehabbed a lot of our apparatus. So we were very fortunate because we needed everything we had to get through that period. Had a lot of people working on overtime on various task forces. But we did. We're the most trusted city agency every time we do our citywide survey of government, of city government, and that really paid off for us. It was difficult sometimes. We had some close calls for sure, but we worked very closely with the Office of Emergency Management, which is part of the fire department here now, the police department. We had more than 3,000 National Guard soldiers here at one point, kind of during the high water mark of that. And the interesting thing about it was a lot of the folks in our neighborhoods really didn't want the Guard to leave. When that when things spilled over into our neighborhoods and we saw fires being set in neighborhood businesses, which we then tried to protect and successfully in so many cases. It was tragic, but again, a real credit to the people of Philadelphia. They let us do what we had to do.
No, that's phenomenal, and you've been doing a terrific job. And a lot of other cities haven't fared as well, and I'm sure that has to do with the fine people that you've got there and the leadership that you're showing. It's so important given these times. We have to keep our first responders safe. We got to keep our community safe, and these are unprecedented times, right? I mean, where else in our lifetimes that we've seen these kind of massive events all come together? This is new territory for everyone. So kudos off to everything you're doing. How's the interagency management with Commissioner Outlaw on the police side? And I know you mentioned Office of Emergency Management. How has that been going? Have there been challenges? Have you been working well together? Are there key elements that you'd want to share that others should be thinking about as they're doing their agency coordination in these types of events?
As I think back a year and when life was so simple that all we were dealing with was the aftermath of a refinery fire and explosion. And that incident went on for 3 months and 3 days before we declared that incident under control, with a lot of federal, state, local partners working with the private sector there. So for us, we've sort of been in a continual state of planning and preparedness since June of last year. And really then we go back to Super Bowl and the NFL draft and the DNC. So as a famous Philadelphian once said, it's about practice. Allen Iverson, one of our heroes here in Philadelphia from the 76ers. And it really is. So we have a great relationship 24/7, 365 with all of our law enforcement partners, the Philadelphia Police Department. We, of course, have a joint task force with ATF and PPD to investigate arson fires. We have a big arson problem here. So we work together with all these agencies, all of our federal partners, whether it's FBI, Secret Service. We've worked together with the Guard before using joint hazard assessment teams at some of these major events. And all of those relationships and all that cooperation really paid off for us over the past several months, whether we were building and staffing a surge hospital for COVID with a combination of Title 10 and Title 32 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, or we had all those Guard soldiers here, actually, including fortifying the building in which I'm working right now. It really was about those relationships and practicing, planning not plans and a lot of those things. So actually, it's gone. I want to acknowledge the challenges and the difficulty that a lot of folks are still facing, and the reconciliation we still have to. We have a lot of hard work ahead as a nation. So when I say things went well, I mean that with a lot of caveats. But again, as far as our interagency response and folks working together, it really is a result of that practice and those relationships.
No, it's fantastic. And we've talked to several leaders, public safety leaders around the country. And, one of the things, we're seeing is, without, no pun intended, but all the different agencies have to wear different hats these days, and multiple hats. And, depending on who's first on scene, and given the confluence of different circumstances and the environment that's going on, police have to have some familiarity with emergency medical services, and there has to be a strong coordination and strong communication between and among, agencies. Tell me a little bit about, from a technology perspective and the Public Safety Network. We work with a lot of different agencies, a lot of companies on making new tech and making the best tech and tools available to public safety. I know there are budget challenges, especially with a lot of urban cities, and in getting the kinds of budgets to bring in these kinds of tools. But, how have you found, the ability to communicate, interoperate with these different agencies? What kind of tech are you leveraging? And if you had your druthers, what kind of tech would you want to see, implemented?
Well, it's a great point. Not just different hats, but different masks. We've been in the mask production business for about 5 months, which is something I never thought I would be doing as a fire commissioner, emergency management director. We have folks who are literally scouring the globe for personal protective equipment. We were fortunate that we kind of leaned forward and took advantage of some respiratory protection technology that leveraged our self-contained breathing apparatus face pieces. You can see behind me, that's actually a map. That's just year to date of all the structure fires that we've had in Philadelphia. So we've been doing a lot with GIS and mapping. And again, some of this goes back to things. We have the opioid crisis has hit hard here as well. So we're fortunate. We have a full-time epidemiologist embedded with us in the fire department in our analytics unit. And she has been able to, along with her colleagues and reaching back to our Department of Public Health. I mean, we've had people from we have a lot of different hospitals. So we've really been collecting data streams from all over the place, mapping it and dashboarding it. And, some of the challenges are the challenges you always have with data quality and the timeliness of the data. And then, tactically, as far as communications go, we were able to kind of, when we were dealing with that really difficult week of the civil unrest and then also peaceful protesting, still COVID, we were able to bring in, from one of our cell providers, a CAF. We actually had that parked right around the corner. We had a lot of air assets that were with us from DOD and from different federal partners. So we were bringing, dragging monitors in and trying to create secure connections. And really doing a lot of things to get situational awareness. And that was still, it was still a challenge. I mean, even with all those assets in the air, we had different drones and ISR assets from the Guard, our own helicopters, fixed wing aircraft. So really that, everybody talks about that common operating picture. We had that most of the time, not all of the time. We really need to be able to get there, that everybody talks about, and have that kind of that full domain awareness. But the communications we did have largely paid off. I can remember times in other events where we didn't have bandwidth when we needed it the most.
Right.
And in this case, we did. And of course, we still heavily relied on our land mobile radio networks.
Sure.
We absolutely used our FirstNet devices and pretty much everything under the sun, because one of the things this event, or this series of events, really highlighted is the importance of communications for effective command control and, frankly, a safe and effective response.
No, I think you hit it right on, and it's great to hear, how it's being used in practice. And, having been at FirstNet myself, of course, and seeing that and now seeing it being implemented and used in real life scenarios, I think is critically important. And going forward, now, I mean, who knows how long this pandemic's going to last, but certainly there's a bit of a new normal going on, and we're seeing much more in terms of distance communication. I expect we're going to see a lot more in terms of telehealth, and then kind of that interagency communication and having that full operating or operable picture. People use the term interoperability. We like to use the term operability, where, it just works, right? System A works with System B between Department A and between Department B. And that's, ultimately where I think we really need to be going, and to make sure everyone's got the best tools available to make those real-time decisions. I mean, as you said, a common operating picture is so critical. Who knows what's going to hit us next? We're obviously hitting into hurricane season. Hopefully that won't impact you all as much as some others. But, we know weather's changing, and we've got so much civil unrest going on now. I think we just have to be prepared for just about anything. These are different times for sure. So, last thing I wanted to just bring up with you, kind of on a different note, is I know you're a large user of social media. Social media has been used, in a lot of different ways by public safety. Some folks use it individually, others on an agency-wide basis, some both. And a lot of different kind of information is shared. I'd love to get your take on, how you're using social media today to communicate with the community, what you see as kind of the best practices and how that tool should be leveraged by public safety to make sure that there is transparency and good communication between public safety and the communities they're serving.
Yeah, frankly, I don't think being on social media is an option anymore. I mean, that is where a lot of folks get their news. That's where they get their information. And if they can't get it from credible sources and verified sources, then they're still going to get it from social media. So you really do have to be in there and in the mix, educating folks and using social media as critical channels for that. I actually started using social media as a way of communicating with our workforce. And in particular here in Philadelphia, with around 3,000 folks, it's hard to get the message from A to B to C to D across time and space. So frankly, probably my most important social media followers are folks who are members of the Philadelphia Fire Department. At the same time, I recognize and embrace the dual role of social media. So we're also educating our communities, educating the public. I for a long time have had this mantra of speak truth to power, and the ultimate power in our system of governance properly resides with the people we serve. So to me, I feel like I really have a responsibility to educate and make sure that our citizens, our taxpayers, our residents, businesses, and visitors know what they're getting. They know what we're doing. They know what I'm doing, frankly. So it's important for them, I think, to see that I'm out there working, that I'm out there side by side with our firefighters and medics, not all the time, but when we have significant incidents, I try to get out there. It's also important, I think, with all those communications that we are as positive as we can be, and certainly not feeding the kind of the negative side of social media, because there is. I talked to, we just graduated 56 new firefighters today, and they can all have a safe, happy, healthy, and effective career. But they really do need to be cautious about what they put on social media, because everybody knows that they are members of the Philadelphia Fire Department. And really, we want them to keep those messages positive and factual. And frankly, what our parents all taught us years ago, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So I try to keep it nice, try to keep it respectful. That's essential. And my mother was an English teacher, so for me, it's always no typos. So knock on wood, I've never made a typo, and I'm hoping to keep that streak.
All right, now we're going to have to hold you to that one, right? That's outstanding. Now, I think your point about communicating within the department, especially when you're talking about, 2,900, 3,000, individuals where, the day of the interoffice memo just, that it's not the same anymore, right? And so I think that's an excellent point, as well as, the access by the community and the transparency. So on that note, I want to thank you wholeheartedly for joining us today. Tremendously helpful information for folks viewing, and obviously you've got tremendous experience. I hope all will take what you've said to heart, and looking at implementing these types of practices in their own agencies. Commissioner Adam Teal of Philadelphia Fire Department, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you all again next week. Take care.
Thanks, Jason. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye now.